Randolph Ramsey, you and I got to play with Project Morpheus.
That's right, the new Sony VR thing.
Indeed, I probably played the most entertaining demo out of the two of us.
Yeah, so I think we saved that one till last.
Okay.
We'll talk about the experiential demos there,
Yes.
which is, sort of similar to the sort of stuff we've been hearing about Oculus and Vive, in which you just put the headset on and you're in a different world.
Yeah.
Like the first one I played is kind of an old one. It's it's the one called In the Deep, and it's basically you in some sort of shark cage going all the way down into the ocean, and there's turtles and stuff all around you, and eventually a shark will come and attack you.
Oh my god.
And that was amazing. The second one was a bit more interesting, and we tried both of that one there, in which you're in what are the little robots that you have in the
Yeah, those
playroom?
AR bots that were in in the original, what is it, playroom, where you can like flick them out of your controller.
Yeah.
There was two demos in that one. The first one was virtual reality DualShock 4 in your hands, and you pressed the button in the real life, and a bunch of AR robots came out of it, and they were dancing on the table. And then I guess the second demo was you didn't even have a controller, you're just kind of looking.
Yeah, basically you were looking in, I assume it was like supposed to be some kid's bedroom, and there were all these little robots around doing all their different cool stuff. There were, there was some exercising, there was some playing Dance Dance Revolution. So it was just basically
there was some with Project Morpheus on their heads, and they were like walking into walls and stuff. Yeah.
So it's basically just like like a big dollhouse, and you could just like look around, and it looked very cool. Like you almost felt like you could just reach out and grab the little dudes, but you couldn't quite, because in all these demos you don't actually see your body.
Yes.
Right? So the most interesting one though was the one you did, and you have some Move controllers in your hand. Explain why.
So I have still kept onto these, and I'm happy because the best Morpheus experience apparently comes at using these bad boys. I played this London Heist demo, they're calling it. It starts off with you sitting in a chair, and there's this Cockney geezer looking at you, and he's like kind of saying, where's such and such, like it's some sort of scenario where he's trying to like get information from you, and he's being all intimidating. And I was just looking around the room, and I looked over here to like the exit sign, and he did not like that. He flicked his cigarette, and I could see it coming out of the corner of my eye, and it hit me above the eye, and I was like, whoa, and he was like, you're not getting out of here, mate, and he like shoots a bullet at the sign. So he like picked up that I looked at the sign, which was really interesting. And then after a couple of minutes, he gets a phone call, and he asked me to stand up, and I like stand up, and that's when the very nice Sony man decides to take the chair away from me, which presumably you'll have to have like a friend or your spouse doing that for you all the time. When you're
or you just fall over on it.
Or you just fall over. And then he starts he says like, here's a phone, it's for you, and you pick it up with your Morpheus, and you basically use these to like use your fingers, because then you've got these two hands, and they're moving one to one, and it's crazy.
Did it feel right? Like when you reached out for something, did it feel like the length you had to reach out for it in the world?
It did, and I was able to like lean forward and get in his face a bit, and I picked up his phone, and then the interesting thing was, because I was wearing headphones and it was like full, surround sound audio, I was basically like put the phone up to my ear and I could hear it. Yeah. And then if I did that, it sounded like it was there. And it's a crazy experience. And that was kind of interesting, but then the next thing that happened was, now I'm standing in this room, right? And the level fades, and this new one pops up, and I'm standing in front of almost like a chest of drawers kind of situation with all these handles, and I've still got my hands, and I can, clench my fingers with these. So I'm like, some guy on like some earpiece or whatever is telling me to like look in drawers, and I'm like cleaning them and pulling things out, and then there's like a bunch of magazines for a gun in there, and then this one's got like a jewel, and I go, ooh, jewel! Pick up the jewel, alarms go off, and the room starts getting filled up with all these gangster dudes, and the guy says duck behind the table, so I'm like like this, and he's telling me that, and he says there must be a gun here somewhere, so I'm like literally reaching over, opening drawers. I eventually find the gun, then I find a magazine, and I'm like doing this, and like I look like I look like a jerk now, presumably, but in this it felt so like cool and real, in a way that I think, first of all, that sensor it looks great, like HD, really good frame rate, and the fidelity with the head movement and with these was just spot on. So I'm loading these guns, and I'm like shooting these, I think they're Russian dudes or whatever, and I'm like bang, 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 bang. And after a while, I'm like, in any other game, you just shoot, reload. After a while, I realized every time I had to pop up to get another magazine, I was getting hurt. So I just popped up, took all the magazines, put them on the floor in front of me in this game, and got down. And then I'm like diving to the side and like reloading my gun and shooting him this guy. And I reload. Like at one stage I just dumped off so I could put a new magazine in.
I was gonna say,
crazy.
It was amazing how quickly you threw yourself into it, because
Yeah.
you were on the floor literally at one stage, like, you know, shooting gangster style sideways.
I kind of wanted to see if I could break it,
Yeah.
because like the thing with VR is that, like, you know, you're not moving in the world, and they've made this demo like real refined, and it's in this box so that like you get the best experience. So I was thinking, you know, what would I do in this situation? I'd probably get on the ground and try and shoot them out the side. So I tried it, and it worked.
How was the shooting?
Great.
Were you actually aiming? Did you need to aim?
Yeah, I was aiming down sights when I had a chance.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I was just like dumping like gangster style over the top. This just felt like a completely different type of experience. Like, ultimately the problem with this thing is like, how do you involve movement? How do you get it so that the character can actually move around the environment without, you know, putting the controller on these or an analog stick? Like, I don't know how that works, but in terms of just being stationary and firing stuff, like,
And
it did crazy.
It did feel, it looked like it was quite natural, like reaching over. You didn't have to like put direction twice to like open anything. You were just like instinctively like pulling open drawers and picking up stuff. You weren't repositioning at all.
No, and the weird thing was, like, if there was ever a stage where I guess like my hand would go through something, it didn't. It pushed back, and then my body, like, I almost like automatically just redirected it. So yeah, when I was opening the drawers, I was getting them first time, and they were locking on a bit, you know. There was like, if you're close to it and you pull the trigger, it's like, you know, it knows you're trying to go for that. But no, it felt great. And the other thing that actually really impressed me was that this entire time I had this big thing on my head, and I've only ever used the Oculus, I think the second version, not the latest one. It's so light. The Morpheus is like super light.
And the best thing for me is I could actually put it on with my glasses still on, right? Because that's the thing with Oculus. I kind of have wide glasses. I can't put it on comfortably, but this was just slip it on, tie in a few straps, and it was great. So I could actually appreciate how good, you know, it looked in there. And I'm really liking the fact that they are starting to come up with more game demos for all of the virtual reality stuff, because all the experiential stuff is really cool. But seeing you in that game made me think, wow, you know, I want to get this when this comes out. Like, I'm excited about what they could do with this thing.
If they released the entire game, and I'm not a big light gun fan, but if they released the entire game where it was basically on rails, and you were like, you know, in different scenarios, hiding behind things, shooting people, I would play the hell out of that. It was great fun. The only things technically that I could see that were like a little bit off was that, one, I was very aware of the wire, because it's not wireless, especially when I was sitting in the chair. I think it actually snagged, so when I turned my head at one stage, it went, and I had to like, you know, with headphones and all that stuff. And the other thing is that because it's so light, I guess it's maybe it doesn't have the accelerometers or something in it. I'm not sure how it works, but I know it's using the PlayStation camera. So the room we were in was quite dark. Now these work in daytime. I actually use PlayStation Move quite a lot on the PS3, and these work fine in the daytime with like Sports Champions or whatever. I just hope that the Morpheus, because obviously the camera's picking up all the lights on the front of it, that it does work in like daytime conditions. Obviously we're playing in like the best possible scenario. So I guess we'll have to wait and see with that.
Cable management stuff a thing, and also making sure that if it's a real world environment, you get all of the crap out of the way in your living
just
room.
Just employ someone constantly to take a chair away every time you
like the damage potential for this is way like far outweighs anything with a Wii remote. You know what I mean? You could knock your TV over, you could knock your kids over, you could kill yourself.
A kid comes over and you're just like firing stuff and you end up punting a kid across the room. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Morpheus is out apparently second half of 2016.
Of next year, that's right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. Dust off your PlayStation Move controllers, Randy. Get it done.